Good morning, good noon, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar on lean methodology. So the agenda is kind of give you a high-level overview of what lean is, and then actually show some examples of lean in our lab manufacturing environment and what we've implemented here at ERA. So let's get started. One of the questions that's always asked is, why lean? What's the whole lean methods and what are the tools and everything? The bottom line is, if you're in a business, it's all about, differentiating yourselves from everybody else. It's looking to, if you're a publicly traded or even a privately held company, it's how do you optimize the value of the company? As we know, we kind of went through a huge economic downturn in the late 2008 through 2010. We're still trying to pull ourselves out of that. It's also that we're in businesses and we need to differentiate ourselves from the competition. And so you look at lean and methodologies to really drive your differentiation from other competitions. You want to grow your business, you want to improve your business, and lean provides that methodology to allow you to do those types of things. Really, you want to grow and survive, so you want to reduce your waste. Costs continue to go up. Raw material costs continue to go up. So how do you control your inventories, those types of things. And really, when you think about lean, it's really common. I look at it as it's common sense. And really, the main focus is reducing waste. So, highlighted in red there is it's critical to implement lean methodologies to stop generation of defects, unmitigated waste, and poor results before they take place. So what is lean? A lot of people ask, what is lean? Well, let's first talk about what lean is not. Lean, is not a program of the month. A lot of people think lean is a quick fix or a shortcut. That's not the issue. The biggest myth on lean is that it's about eliminating people. And a lot of times, if you're, a company and you're really getting into the infancy of lean, a lot of people look at it as you're just trying to eliminate people. That's not necessarily the case. It's a method for controlling inventory. It's not just a manufacturing system. Lean applies to any type of endeavor whatsoever. It could be, leans in every industry out there. Doesn't mean that you have to be making product or doing anything to only implement lean. It fits in all environments. All right. Lean is basically, it's a disciplined system. In other words, there's tools that you have to use and there's waste that you're going to have to go after. A definition is it's a systematic methodology for implementing rapid change through elimination of waste. It's best accomplished with flexible, lean thinking, team-oriented, cross-trained people. The key here is team-oriented and cross-trained people. It's not something that you just go out and, hey, we're going to implement lean. You really need to educate your folks, get everybody buying into it, train them to understand the various lean tools. Again, the methodology is, I look at that third bullet point down there, and that is, it's really looking at simplicity, making sure everything is visible, making sure you're flexible and we're responsive. It's really utilizing your people to their fullest potential. And it's also tied to your customer and to your demand. And it does require a constant change. One of the questions that comes up a lot is when you implement lean, how do you know you reached your goal? Well, you never really reach your goal because it's constant change. You're constantly improving your processes. The objective is continuously improve your competitive position through better methods by improving the flow, really, of your money, your method or / processes, your materials, your starting materials, raw materials, finished materials, packaged materials, those types of things. Man, which is your employee, machines or information. And machines can range from, analytical equipment to your software systems to anything of that nature is required. So again, you're looking to improve the flow of all those critical things to any business. And the ultimate goal is to provide value. All right, you're going to reduce your waste and provide value to your business, your operation. Some of the fundamentals of lean it's really an employee environment. It's involvement. One individual cannot be successful in trying to roll out lean. It requires the entire organization. It really centers, from the fundamentals of involving your people. Workplace and office organization, having things organized, eliminating waste, eliminating walking time. We'll talk a little later about the different types of waste. It's about quality, improving your quality. It's looking at what's your operational availability. I mean, do you have, is your process even capable of delivering whatever you're trying to achieve? It's looking at your material movement as well as the flow of your material or the flow of your processes. This slide kind of gives a very high level of how things should work within a lean, and basically the key elements on the left-hand side there. They're really different types of tools and different types of skill sets that you really need to educate your employees on. I'm not saying that you have to do every single one of them, but you really need to get them to start understanding, value stream mapping, Kanban systems, Kaizen activities, operating small lots, making things in smaller lots, facility layout, workplace organization. Those are key elements of the lean methodology. The outputs are you get a common focus, you get simplified systems, it helps eliminates the waste, improves your throughput, gives you higher uptimes, and most importantly, less defects. And the results are you improve your quality, you improve your cost, you improve your responsiveness. And those benefits of those are you get better customer satisfaction, you get better customer loyalty, and you improve your market share. And again, you continue this process, and until it's you're constantly looking to improve, and you're really trying to get that culture to always look for improvements. This is what I call the house of lean, and basically, with any organization or any business, you have to have a good solid foundation. So typically, if you're going to go into start a lean process or implement lean within your business, you want to have a good foundation, and that foundation really starts with the 5S, the visual management, waste elimination. And then as you get more comfortable with the foundation, you start building up to the other little tools that are there, and that's your standardized work, your cell design, your flow, your flexibility, your quality at the source, your pools, your Kanbans, etc. And it all kind of starts understanding your business and your process flow, which is really your value stream. The two most important concepts, and these are really from lean, this is really what you're focusing on. You want to be able to understand your process to the point where you can say what's value added versus non-value added. You want uninterrupted progression of your process, whether it's taking orders, whether it's analyzing a sample, whether it's participating in this or producing that. You want to look at what's value added versus non-value added. All right, and basically that's your flow. And then anything that stops or impedes that flow is considered waste. So you want, lean is really about identifying the waste and eliminating that waste. Okay, again, it's the identification and elimination of waste that's really the central focus of a good, strong lean system. Lean is dynamic. It's constantly improving your processes. It's dependent on understanding what those processes are, and it's dependent on the involvement of all your employees. Successful implementation requires that all employees must be trained to identify and eliminate waste from their work. So again, as if you want the individuals that are actually doing the job, doing the work, doing whatever the process or method is that they're participating in, you want them to be able to understand what is waste and how they can look at to modify what's that non-value added versus value added. So really from a lean standpoint, it's really training, educating your workforce to understand those waste categories, how to identify it, and then also provide them with tools on how to eliminate them. Okay, and again, if we remember the previous slide, you're looking for integration of man, your method, your material, your machine at the work site. It could be, again, computer, it could be a number of different things, and money. You're looking to integrate all those into it. And waste exists in all work at all levels and in all organizations. It doesn't matter what you're doing, there's always waste in your process. Even if you're sitting and doing a monthly report, so to speak, there's waste in that process. How many clicks do you have to click on before you generate the report? Those types of things. Or if you're running a report or you're placing an order, every little step or every little keystroke, is it providing value or is it not providing value? Those types of things. All right. The definition of waste is, I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can use your imagination. But it's to squander, it's to consume carelessly, it's junk, it's worthless residue. Waste is a loss of energy. You grow weaker. So again, to understand what waste really is, and then identifying waste. So I remember this as COMWIP, COMMWIP. When you look at your waste, and again, lean is about identifying these wastes. There's really 7 categories. In some cases, it could be 8, but these are the main 7. Correction. That means you've done something, it's not correct, and you have to basically redo it. In other words, it's more quality focused. The fact that if I have to redo something because I didn't do it right the first time, I'm now correcting it. Okay, that's a waste. You want it to be able to do it correctly every single time. Overproduction, again, a huge source of waste. It's again, remember customer versus demand. Many companies they overproduce, thinking that it's good. Hey, we'll have extra, and you're sitting in inventory. But overproduction is one. Movement of materials. All right, how far does the material got to move? Why does it have to move? It's really a waste. Motion. You're looking at motion, everything. So, in our case here at ERAs, we're making our products. If we're making a product and we have to have the chemist or the chemtech actually go and grab things and move, it's not good. Waiting. It could be waiting on an instrument. It could be waiting on information. It could be waiting on data. It could be waiting on anything. That is a waste. Inventory. Again, this is inventory in all aspects. This is inventory of finished goods. This is inventory of raw materials. This is inventory of starting materials. You're basically invested money in that, and in addition, the space that it's taking up, you're actually paying for that space as well. And then there's the processing waste. That's where you're looking at your process and you're trying to determine what's value added versus non-value added in your process. And there's always waste in there. I'm not going to go into real deep detail, but the 3 contributors to waste are unevenness. And what unevenness means is I got more supply coming in than what I can produce. So it's uneven. So you're really looking at your process and saying, do I have bottlenecks? Do I, am I sitting and waiting on different things? Overburden is, I'm beyond my capacity. And how do I deal with that? And then also your current process methods. They're a contributor to these 7 types of different wastes. So the biggest question is, how do you implement lean? How do you even get started? It really starts with the leadership of your business or your organization. It starts there, of having the vision and the involvement. I've had I would say the opportunity to actually roll lean into 2 business ventures for their 2 different businesses in which they had not had lean in, and going in, and it really starts with the leadership. If the leadership's not buying into it and actually understands lean, it's going to be very hard to drive that, sustain it, and keep it moving. So leadership is critical in the process of driving it and in sustaining it. You need to have problem-solving expertise. From a lean standpoint, this is critical, being able to solve problems and know how to solve those problems, how to do root cause analysis, how to look at waste, how to identify non-value versus value-added process steps or procedures. And then you need the overall organizational commitment. If you try to implement it from the top or from the bottom up, it's not going to, it's not going to be very successful. So again, it's from the top down, and it's got to be driven. But then you also need that commitment from the leadership team to make sure that it's being driven. All right. Leadership creates the environment, and that's really the key piece to how you have to have the leadership driving it. So, we owe it to ourselves that, we take a vested responsibility to put lean enterprise in place that creates added value by, one, setting the direction of where we're going, creating the environment to change. In other words, what is that environment? How do we need to create it? Leading the change process. Who are going to be the leaders besides, who's going to be out on the floor doing the training, doing the teaching, doing the guiding, the hand-holding, so to speak. Rewarding the right things. When we are successful, we should be rewarding those things. All right. If there's any barriers or roadblocks in the process, we should be looking to remove those. And then the biggest one is challenging the past practices and excuses. How many times have we heard we've always done it this way? Why do we have to change? It's worked before. If it's working, why fix it? Again, it's that mentality. It's getting people to understand that it might have worked in the past, but time changes constantly. Environments change constantly. Economy changes constantly. So you have to really be aware of what's going on, and that you can't always do things the way you've done them in the past. So if you're really looking to implement it quickly, the fastest way to implement a lean deployment model is, again, with your leadership team, is you gather your information. You basically are getting your facts and your data. What's that information? What are you trying to improve upon? And then you generate the understanding. You get the understanding of, this is the direction we're going to go. We're going to get our employees to start understanding this is the direction we're going to go. And then we get the commitment. And the commitment is this is the direction we're going, which then starts empowering the employees to action. The old way is that we usually just give information, we kind of communicate the old way, and hopefully we get some action out of that. So again, when you're implementing lean, especially a rapid deployment, you want to have all your facts, you want to have all your information, you want to generate understanding with your employees so that they understand what you're trying to get to, and also show them that there's commitment to this, that you will give the available time or whatever it takes to do a quick Kaizen or an improvement process. And then you'll get the action, and then you can sustain. Again, it's transferring the knowledge, it's transferring the expertise, it's transferring the skills, the tools to understand, again, what is waste, what's not value added, or the tools that you can use to identify those types of things. All right. You want to provide the understanding of what lean manufacturing or lean methodology is. You want to be able to support, again, this is the leadership that's doing this. You want to be able to support the process of rapid implementation. You want to identify the roles and responsibilities. Who's going to be the leaders out on the floor? Who's the people that are going to take responsibility to do projects or improvement projects? As a leader, you want to make sure you're taking the obstacles away, removing any barriers or obstacles. And you want to be able to start seeing new opportunities, rapidly see new opportunities. So really, from a leadership standpoint, working with the key individuals, you want to develop that vision of how to quickly apply concepts and create a lean organization. And then you want to define what those next steps are. So true change comes within, and change is always very difficult for people. And it's got to come from within. All right. So some of the questions that you'll run into is, why are people resist change? Oh no, we're starting lean. We're going to do this. And the key is, again, it's that communications piece, that getting the understanding is that most people, why they fear change is it's the unknown. It's the fear of the unknown. It's something new. It's something they've never experienced before, or they've experienced it in the past and it's failed. So it's that fear of not knowing what lean really means. It's also that fear of, oh my gosh, if we do this, am I going to be working myself out of a job? So it's that fear of, am I going to lose my job? What's it going to change? Is my job going to become more difficult? Is, those types of things. All right. And so, what makes people change? There's really three different categories of, pain is, people will change if they're in pain. It's an emotional event. So if you think about the fact that you might have a process or something in your operation, your business that, people, it's a pain point. It's a pain to do this process. It's a pain to analyze this product. Every single time it's a pain. People will be willing to change if it reduces that pain point. It's understanding that. The other one is despair. Nothing's changed. We keep doing it the same way over and over and over again, and we keep getting the same results. So that over a period of time you get despair, and so people are looking for a change. What can we do differently to improve this? And then last is people will change when they discover that constructive change is possible. When they see change and it's for the better, people will want to change, and they'll want to start looking into that, the possibilities. So again, as you roll lean out or you're interested in lean, it's good to understand that, what are those roadblocks or barriers that you're going to run into. Understand that human nature is most people don't like to change. Again, so understanding why they don't like to change in those fears, and then how do you help communicate? How do you help get them to understand, the benefits of lean or any type of change in that aspect. So, you want to develop, you want to change, you want to implement, and you measure. And how do you do those things? Okay. Again, from the leadership standpoint, the whole purpose of leadership is to reduce these barriers. So typically, what are those barriers to improvement? You really have philosophies, concepts, and theories. And the barriers are always, and roadblocks are always going to be the lack of commitment, inconsistent direction. They're skeptical. Yeah, we're not sure what's going on here. There's a lack of trust. There's mixed signals. There's resistance to change. There's also politics. And then, my favorite is not in our house. It's not going to work in our house. So if your whole goal of lean is to kind of change your work practices, process improvement, reduce your waste, you're going to run into some of these barriers. And so knowing that up front, you can actually set your program up to address these types of things. All right. To do that is, again, looking at philosophies, concepts, and theories. You translate them into information. You look for understanding of your employee base, and you get the commitment. Again, from the leadership standpoint, it's the commitment. Okay, and you start breaking through those barriers, and you start changing your work practices. I'm giving a very, very high level, and I'm trying to give you a taste of everything, from a lean. Again, lean's waste reduction. It's identifying your waste and reducing your waste. What are the barriers you really need to, what are those things you got to face, and how can you be successful? And it's really having a commitment from the upper leadership and driving that commitment down. You're also going to run into the fear of how do you get people to start changing and look for better ways. So you have to figure out how to do that. The other piece that's key to lean is making sure that you educate and you train your employees on the different lean tools and the whole aspect of lean, whether it's from 5S to Kanbans to value stream mapping, root cause analysis. I mean, there's hundreds of different tools out there. But it's also understanding how people learn. How do you educate people? And typically, you have the hear, see, do. All right, you can hear something, you can see something, you can do something. All right. If I hear something, I may forget it. If I see something, I might remember it. But if I do something, I start now improving my understanding. All right, so you hear it, see it, and then you actually do it. You actually start understanding. You get a better understanding of what's going on. So statistically, they say, if you hear something, you remember about 10% of what you hear. If you see something, you see, it's about 15%. Now, again, these are generalities, but it depends on the individuals. 20%, if you see and hear, you remember 20%. If you actually discuss what you see and hear, you remember 40%. If you actually do it or practice it, it's now 80%. And then if you actually train it to somebody, it's 90%. So again, hear, see, and do. I know personally, I like the do piece. I also like to see, and I like all three of them. I want to hear about it, I want to see it, and then I want to do it. That guarantees my understanding is going to be up somewhere around 80%. Okay. So again, from a lean organization, total involvement. All right, so you want to look at your business planning. You want to look at the voice of the customer. What's your demand? What business are you in? You want to look at materials management, the distribution of that. You want sales and service involved in this process. Then you need your manufacturing assembly, your suppliers, provides quality and reliability. If you have an engineering group, looking at products and processes and tooling and your design and your marketing. So again, all aspects of a business have to be involved for a total organization and really help drive a lean organization. So with that said, let's look at some of the things that we've actually done here at ERA in Golden. One of the first things when I came to ERA was the 5S. I'm not going to go into details of the 5S. Some of you might already know about 5S. I'm sure you do. But this may be a future webinar if we get enough interest. But 5S is basically, I just put it in simple terms of a place for everything and everything's in its place. Very simple as that. So one of the things that we looked at in our manufacturing lab is that we wanted to set that stage. We wanted to set the stage of a place for everything and everything's in its place. So everything in our lab is marked and labeled. It's got a location. We looked at, looking at some of the wastes of motion. When we first looked at this, people were walking, when you think about walking 10 feet, 20 feet to get something and coming back to your lab bench or to your manufacturing table, it doesn't seem like an awful lot. Well, if you take that time and that distance over a period of a year, it all adds up. So again, looking at 5S is not just, having everything labeled and everything in its place. It's also looking at where you're placing these things. Are you placing them near use? How often are you using those types of things? So in this case, all our cabinets, all our drawers in our manufacturing area are labeled. It tells you exactly where it is. So if I'm looking for something, I can quickly find it. I'm not searching. I'm not wandering. I'm not searching. I'm not looking for stuff because I know exactly where it is. So the left-hand corner is actually one of our cabinets that's got a number of different, some of our vials and different things that are in there. In addition, the lower two ones are foam inserts. So when we're packaging, it's kind of hard to see, but if you look at the middle one, you'll see a little red mark. All right, and what that's telling us is we want the foam to go no higher than that. These foam inserts to go no higher than that. On the right-hand side, you see the red mark of saying when it hits this level, we need to replenish up to that line. So again, it's a visual, it's a signal. It tells you where it is. It tells you when you need to replenish, those types of things. Okay. If you look again, organization. One of the things that I strive for is, and we strive for, and we do a pretty good job, is even in the lab bench, our tape dispenser is actually labeled. It's got a home. You might, you look at this, you say, well, that's kind of corny. Well, if people know where it is, they'll always put it back. How many times have you gone to look for something that somebody's borrowed and never put back? And so now you're wandering, searching for your tape dispenser. Our chem wipes, or even our balance is labeled and taped off on the lab bench. You can see our drawers all have a verbiage on it that says what's in each one of these drawers. Again, our flasks, our volumetric flasks, again, different sizes. They're labeled. You can tell where they are. We got everything. So again, you can find things. You know what you're looking for. It's easy to find. Kind of our starting materials, our raw materials. Again, labeled. You'll see these little blue cards here, but everything's labeled, easy to find. You know where it is. This last lower right-hand corner one, if you look at, there's nothing labeled in this drawer. It better be empty. And that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. And I routinely, as well as our lab product line managers and stuff, we routinely go out and we actually do an audit audit ourselves once a quarter, and one of the things we look at is if there's something in this drawer, then we'll get with the group and say, okay, does it belong there, does it not belong there? We actually implemented a Kanban system. Kanban is basically one of the things, again, from a waste standpoint of waiting on things. What we found is that we had some raw materials that all of a sudden we run out, and we can't get replacement for anywhere from a couple days to a week to 2 weeks in some cases, depending on what it is. So again, that's a waste. We're waiting. We're not meeting our customer demand because now nobody was paying attention to our raw materials and how much we had. So we implemented a Kanban system, and I can tell you it's taken about probably a little over a year and a half, but we've been doing this now for 3 to 4 years, and I can tell you it monitors itself now. Everybody out on the floor will, if they got a new material, automatically goes on a Kanban. They're self-directing themselves on this. So again, the Kanban card is kind of hard to see, but it's basically saying who the vendor is. It's telling you what the item description is. It's telling you the ID for the vendor. It's telling you the reorder quantity. And it's the catalog number, and it's also giving you comments of what the lead time is. All right, so what will happen is when we hit a certain level, over on the right-hand side, you're going to see like our cardboard boxes and different things. When it hits a certain level, this card is then pulled, it's given to our purchasing group. Purchasing then places the order. When we get our our new source back in, the card goes back to where it was. I'm not saying we're 100% perfect on this. Yeah, occasionally we stumble, but I can tell you we have not had any issues as far as not having raw materials here to do our job. So the other thing that we focused a lot on was kind of our cell flow, looking at how our processes flow through the system. Again, trying to reduce the amount of weight, trying to reduce the amount of motion, trying to reduce the amount of searching, those types of things. So this is just one, and it's kind of, apologize for the kind of the bad representation. It's kind of blurry, but this is one part of our manufacturing area where the lab benches at the bottom here. This is where we manufacture. We manufacture our products on these 4 benches here. Right next door is our analytical equipment to analyze those products to ensure that they were made correctly. So again, in the past, we were set up where it was manufactured in one area and then had to be carried over to our analytical equipment to be analyzed. Again, it's just walking, right? People look at it as you're just walking 50 feet, 100 feet. What's the big deal? The difference is if you do that every day for 320 days a year, it's waste. It's not adding any value. So we wanted to move things as close as possible to our processes, okay? So they can make their product, deliver it right next door to be analyzed, and then be labeled, and then we can actually move it right into our storage area. This is our WIP area that we fill orders with. So as orders come in, they can pull them off our wired racks, and then it goes out to our shipping department. So again, a nice U-shaped flow. And it's going out. Could it be better? Yes, it can always be better. Some of the things that we looked at as well was hand carrying. So you want to try to minimize how many times you have to touch your product. So we used to package it, label it, analyze it, carry it, take it from their boxes or containers or cart, pick it up, and put it on a shelf. Well, with these carts over here are now wheeled carts. So they can actually wheel the cart out, put the product on it, wheel it back. They touch it one time. Again, so you're trying to minimize the amount of touches. So those are some of the things. We've done a lot of other things. I'd be glad to share more if people are really interested in this. I think it's a great opportunity. I will answer any questions at this time that people might have. I kind of buzzed through this pretty quickly, but again, Lean, from my standpoint, is really about common sense. It's really about looking at your processes and making sure that you're being able to identify proficiency, reducing your waste, etc. So at this time, I'm glad to open it up to any questions. This presentation will be out on our webinar. We'll make sure we get it out there to share if people find it useful. If there's other interest in, for example, more detail around 5S, more detail around value stream mapping, more detail around self-flow, any of the lean type of tools, the major tools, I'd be glad to, we'd be glad to put on a webinar and try to do that. So.
Thank you, David. I just want to reiterate, as David said, that this webinar has been recorded and will be available with sound through our website, www.eraqc.com. We are available for questions. If you have any questions, feel free to type them out, and we will get them out there. Question from Karen Prado. Will there be more training on 5S?
Yeah, I would personally. I would love to do 5S training. To me, 5S is the most critical piece. It's the starting foundation. I can tell you, when I was going through my Six Sigma Lean training, my mentor, who was from Japan, said if you do anything, you do 5S. 5S, and if you do 5S very well, you'll start getting the waste reductions, you'll start getting everything else, and it'll start taking care of itself. So I would love to do a 5S webinar. If we have enough interest, we would be glad to put one on. And I can actually show more detail than just a few pictures that I've shown from ERA.
And we have a second vote for 5S. So it sounds like that's something we're going to be doing in the future. Renee asks, did you utilize lean tools while designing the new facility?
Yes, we did. As a matter of fact, at the old facility, when I talked about moving stuff, making product, moving it 100, 200 feet to have it packaged, and then moving it back 200 feet to have it analyzed, we really looked at, and again, this is just a snapshot of our self-flow, but we did use lean processes in looking at our self-flow to get a nice flow of product. So, and we actually worked with each one of the product lines to help develop them in that process. Again, it's continuous improvement. Could have been better, always can be better. But from where we were at the old building to where we are now, hands down, 100% better.
Megan Henry asks, what does 5S stand for?
5S, I'm trying to remember the actual Japanese terms. However, 5S is, there's the 5 S's they call. It's the first thing you want to do is you want to go into your areas and you want to sort. All right? Sort is the first S. Sort basically means that you're looking at everything that's in an area, everything that's in your office, everything that's in your desk. And you're going to look at it and you're going to sort through and you're going to say, do I really need this? Is this relevant to me doing my job on a regular basis? That's the sort. And, again, I can go into more detail. But what you're looking at is from the sort is how often do you use it? When do you use it? And is it really needed? You're going to get rid of all that stuff. And we've done sort here. We've done it. We do it about twice a year, where we go through and sort. What are we using? Have we used it in the last 6 months? Is this something we see for the future? If not, we put it in a red tag area, and if it sits there for 30 days, we actually dispose of it. It's gone. The second S is set in order, and that is the stuff that you sort through that you're going to keep. You're going to set it in order. You're going to put it close to where it's needed. Based on how often it's being used. So that's the second S, is set in order. Third S is shine. And shine means you're going to keep everything clean. You're going to keep it organized. You're going to have tools in place to keep things clean. Fourth S is standardize. All right? And so you're going to standardize your 5S process. And you're going to standardize it by having audits. You're going to standardize it by having everybody doing it the same way. You're going to standardize it by making sure that there are activities, there are actions that your teams are going to do. And then the last S is the most critical and the hardest of anything, whether it's lean related, 5S related, the hardest and most complicated, and that's why a lot of times 5S and lean become flavor of the month, is sustain. How do you sustain it? All right. How do you maintain it? How do you keep it going? Because if you're really trying to change your culture, you really need to be able to sustain. So a lot of it is that leadership. It's going out on the floor. It's working with the teams. It's making sure that they understand this is not flavor of the month. It's auditing them, coming up with some type of scorecard where you measure them against how well they're doing and reporting that on a regular basis. And you do that until it becomes part of the culture, which is where it is right now within ERA. It's part of our culture. We used to do monthly audits. We're now doing quarterly audits, and I actually foresee where we can go out and do a twice-a-year audit because all the groups are following their 5S procedures, which is part of that standardization. So again, your 5S's are sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain.
Okay. Renee Hutchinson is wondering if you'd be open to a presentation on the processes and what went well, what didn't go well.
A presentation on that?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you. I can tell you. I've been doing this for a long time in many different industries, and I've seen what works well and what doesn't work well. And as you roll lean out, whether you're a leader of the company or you're part of the leadership team, it's really having expectations that you're dealing with human beings, you're dealing with employees. And, you know, if you try to roll 5S out, you try to roll lean out based on the book, you're going to fail. All right? You have to have patience. You have to have understand that you're going to run into barriers, you're going to run into obstacles. So I think from our aspect, what hasn't worked well has probably when we first started 5S, we started Kanbans and we started other things. What didn't work well was the fact that we weren't necessarily getting the buy-in. It was the frontline leadership, getting them to buy in. And so again, it was pulling that frontline leadership, those product line managers in, and making sure that they're buying in, giving them ownership and responsibility to make sure that that's happening. But that's definitely, I would say, what didn't work well was not necessarily having the frontline leadership buying into it right off the bat. You know, I can tell you I've been at ERA for 5 years now, and we've come a long way in those 5 years. I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody that, you know, we are, you know, great. There's always room for improvement. There's always constant improvement going on in this. But one of the biggest obstacles that I ran into, and I expected it because I've run into in other businesses, is that, you know, it's work. You know, lean's great, but it's not going to work here. Six Sigma is great. It's not going to work here. That's the understanding. That's getting them to understand that it does work. It doesn't matter whether you're a customer service rep or a salesperson or, you know, you're working in a hospital or whatever, it does work. So, you know, kind of answer the question, what works well, what doesn't work well. I think what works well is you have the patience and you have to work with the folks. You have to empower them. You got to make sure that they trained. But if you don't follow up, which is when the first year we were struggling with our follow-up, that didn't work real well. It's taken us a good 2-3 years to get a lot of this stuff ingrained, and I shouldn't even use the word ingrained, but getting it as, I would say, a normal practice. Hopefully that answered your question, Renee.
Okay, and Renee was also asking what you did if and when the staff didn't buy into the process.
If the staff doesn't buy into the process, again, I've run into this many times, and it's again, the way I would handle it is knowing up front that you're going to run into obstacles, and so you try to go into that staff, whoever they may be, knowing that up front that there's probably going to be some pushback, they're not going to buy into it. And so from a marketing, it's kind of, you know, I look at it as if you're trying to implement lean, there's also marketing involved in this. You got to show them the benefit, the opportunity of what the improvements can be. and you're still going to have that. So typically what I would do is I would talk about it with the staff, give them some time to think about it. I don't mean an hour, talk to them, say, hey, we want to implement 5S. This is what 5S is all about. Here's the benefits, and then give them a week to think about it, and then come back and then start asking them for ideas of, how do you recommend we implement this? Again, a lot of times, if staff's not buying into it, it's because there's a feeling that they weren't part of that decision making even to implement it, or make the decision to, hey, we're going to go this route. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question. It really is just being patient, going in, knowing up front that you're going to run into to some barriers and some naysayers, so to speak. And so you set up the initial presentation or the initial discussion around that to try to address some of their concerns right up front. I also know and firmly believe that, there's the 80-20 rule. 80% of the individuals will support it and buy into it if they know about it. There's always going to be 10 to 20% that no matter what you do, say they're not going to be satisfied with it. And I prefer to focus on the 80% and look at the 20% will come. They'll either come along or they'll find something else to do, so to speak.
Karen Prado would like to know if you have any methodology for dealing with people who are set in their new ways after training and new methods have been put in place.
If they're set in their new ways?
Oh, I'm sorry, in their old ways after new methods and training have been put into place. So if you have the old dog and you're trying to teach them new tricks, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, we ran into that here. We have a lot of people that have been here for a long time, and how you deal with that is you have to show them the benefit. All right, you have to show them the benefit, and in some cases, even if you show them the benefit, it's not going to be enough for some individuals. And in that case, to be honest with you, when you get to those individuals, what I find is if it's one individual that does not want to follow the guidelines or what you're trying to implement, that you drag them along. You actually have to come and say, this is the new way we're going to do things. We'll try it. Let's just try it. That's typically what I would do is okay, I hear what you're saying. You don't think it's going to work. Let's give this a try. And if it doesn't work, we'll go back to the way you were doing things. I've never, ever gone back and done it the way it was done before. What we find out is that when you implement something new and you convince them, and the convincing part's the hardest part of this but you got to give them the option of saying, hey, if this doesn't work, we'll go back to the way we were doing things. Typically what will happen is once you implement those new changes, and they may not work, sometimes they don't work, but what will happen is those people that have been around for a while will start looking at it and saying, oh, wow, well, if we change this, and again, I'm not going to say 100% of the time it works. Like I said, the 80-20 rule, there's always going to be somebody that's going to fight you tooth and nail in any type of improvement. But again, it's how you phrase it. It's how you work with the group of saying, okay, well, you know what, let's just give this a try. If it doesn't work, we'll go back and do it again or go back the old way. And typically what will happen is the people involved in that change will start looking at it and realize, hey, this isn't working, but they'll start looking for it. Well, if we did it this way, it might work. So again, it's a game that you to play, and there is no silver bullet in bringing these people along. It's having the patience. It's really having the experience and how to deal with those individuals.
Just a reminder, as we have about 10 minutes left, anytime you have questions, you can reach any of us at info@eraqc.com, and we'll get the message to the right spot. Chris would like to know if you can give some general guidance. What number of exceptions in a transaction set would suggest inefficiency or waste? If you have a process and there's a number of exceptions, what number of exceptions would suggest inefficiency or waste? If there's any general guidance.
So what's an exception? Is an exception a quality defect, or
Chris, if you're still there and you want to type that in real quick, we'll get you.
Well, I mean, if I look at exceptions are something that's outside the norm, right? So how many, and I think I know where Chris is going with this, is at what point in time did you say, hey, we have to do an lean implementation process, or hey, we have to fix this? And you know, you have to look at what that exception is. If it's something that happens, you know, once in a blue moon, you know, it's really depending on the situation. If it's something major and it causes grief, heartache, you know, lost customers, lost sales, those types of things, or whatever it might be, one should be enough to say, hey, we got to change this process. And I'm not saying you go in and do a full-blown Kaizen and look at the process. What I'm looking at is, how did it happen, right? You know, so I would say it's situational, depending on, you know, how many you've had. It's all situational, determining whether or not you try to go out and implement a lean process or look at the process to fix it. But at the same time, if you have an anomaly, you don't want to waste your employees' times are going out, especially if you know what caused the anomaly and you can quickly fix it. I think I'm answering the question. I'm not quite sure if I have or not. That's it. Well, at this point in time, we have no more questions. So again, as Jason stated, you know, if there's any more questions, don't hesitate to ask. You can call us. You can go to our info website.
Yep. Phone number, the 800 number is 800-372-0122. And our general email is info@eraqc.com. And we'll get back to you with that.
So, and then the last thing I would say is, if you know, this is very high level. I mean, you can't get any more higher level than this on going over lean. So if there's aspects of lean that you'd like to know more about, please send an info. 5S. I mean, to me, 5S is one of my most favorite implementations. To me, it's the heart of lean, is getting that thing set. So, I'd be glad to share with 5S and how to do it, and if we get the number of people interested, glad to do it. Same with any other lean tool. So. With that, I'd like to thank everybody's time and appreciation. And again, I hope you found this beneficial, at least from a high level of what lean's all about. Thank you very much.